Well, a warm welcome to you all to this, the 11th in our series of RHEA Talk webinars. This one to discuss RHEA's recent investment in developing a European Cybersecurity Centre of Excellence, known as ECCE, located in the Transinne region of Belgium. So firstly, let me introduce myself. I am John Bone, Chief Commercial Officer for RHEA Group, and I will be your facilitator for today's session. Please use the Q&A area in your Zoom app down here somewhere to pose questions to our panel. If your question is targeted at a specific panel member, please make this explicit in your question. So talking of the panel, today I am joined by three distinguished panel members who are here to give you an insight into this investment and what the ECCE will mean to RHEA, other industries and the wider European community. So let me introduce firstly Anna Maria Matejic. Anna is a Senior Manager for Cyber Services and Operations at RHEA. She is a cybersecurity practitioner with an in-depth knowledge of cyber risk management and cultural cyber transformation programs. She brings with her 18 years of corporate and cybersecurity management experience in various roles. As such, understanding both the technical and business constraints and enablers. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you, John.
Next, we have Christine Leurquin. Christine is RHEA's Director of Strategy for EU organizations, Belgium and Luxembourg. She joined RHEA in November 2020 and has responsibility for increasing awareness of RHEA within European institutions, agencies and national organizations. Christine has 35 years experience in the space and satellite communications field across Europe and is a board member of the 6G Infrastructure Association, 6GIA. So welcome, Christine. And finally, we have Sandy Seliga. Sandy is the Global Vice President, Cyber Range Solutions and Services at RHEA, working with clients across multiple industries. Sandy's role is dedicated to overseeing and implementing the commercialization strategy for RHEA's cyber range and leads its strategic partner business program. Sandy joined RHEA in 2021 from previous organizations, including Gartner, Korn Ferry, and Xerox, where she held a number of progressive roles in sales, leadership, and strategy. So welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, John. Hi, everyone.
So for those of you who are not familiar with RHEA, we are a security and space engineering services company with around 800 employees across Europe and Canada. RHEA's focus is to add value to our customers through the delivery of specific expertise, technologies, and techniques. So the ECCE expands on RHEA's existing expertise and technologies in the cybersecurity domain. So now to the panel. So Anna, could you explain a little bit more about what is the European Cybersecurity Centre of Excellence, or the ECCE, and what does it mean to you?
Of course, John. So first of all, the European Cybersecurity Centre of Excellence has a very important word embedded into it, and that's the European. So our aim through the ECCE is basically to become the Tier 1 trusted partner in supporting development of key cybersecurity initiatives and, of course, capabilities. And not least important, to tie engagements between governments and the industry in relation to key EU initiatives that concern cybersecurity. And I like to say that we follow very much the current trend, I would say, in the EU related to cyber. Cyber has finally become a key component within the business sectors. So we want to be there to connect basically what I said before: governments, industry, and of course academia, because I believe it's very important to have academia involved into these initiatives.
Thank you, Anna. I mean, you mentioned European Centre, Anna. So Christine, from a European perspective, what does ECCE mean to you? Oh, Christine, you must come off mute.
Sorry, still a mistake after so many years.
Oh, it's one of those standard quotes every time we do a conference now.
Okay, I was saying thank you, John, and good afternoon to all participants, and thank you for the question. In fact, I would like to remind maybe, John, before we talk about Europe in particular, that RHEA is active in space, as you mentioned, and in security for years. And particularly, we have been pioneering in cybersecurity services for the space sector. We have provided cybersecurity services for ESA, for example, since 2016. So this is really a long time investment into cybersecurity for space. We also support, and I would remind it very quickly, the ESA ESCCE Center in RHEA with a future Center of Cybersecurity Services, which will guarantee all ESA missions against cyber attacks. So this is something that we have been doing, as I said, as a pioneer, but as Anna said, which is becoming in Europe something really more important today. And I was the last 2 days in the EU European Space Forum, where all the speakers talk about cybersecurity and the importance of having cyber resilience at all levels of space. So cybersecurity and security by design applied to the space sector are no longer nice to have. It must be a must. So that's why I think that our European Cybersecurity Center of Excellence comes at the right time. It comes at a time when there will be needs for skills, there will be needs for capability, solution, products, and responses to this high demand for more security against different cyber criminals and malevolent governments. So this is coming at the right time, I would say, and it's the continuation of an investment which is there for some years.
Thank you, Christine. And Sandy, as being the responsible person, if you like, for some of the products and services that that RHEA is offering, what does the ECCE mean to you?
For sure, yeah, and just to build on what Anna and Christine have already said, the ECCE to me is a place where organizations across industry can really come together to share and to exchange cybersecurity best practices. We'll talk about this in a couple of minutes, I'm sure, but we're seeing an evolution in the cyber attack landscape, and having those conversations is one of the only ways to stay ahead of what's happening in that landscape. From a product and services perspective, what RHEA is looking to do is help facilitate that learning and that kind of upskilling using our tools and services, tools and products like our cyber range technology.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. And just a reminder to everybody, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. It's just there, I think, to post some questions to the panel. I have a couple, but you'll get sick of my voice if I have to say them all. So please pose your question. So yes, so in terms of, let's say, the markets that we're looking to address and the drivers of those markets, as you're still on the screen, Sandy, what do you feel is the same are the market drivers that the ECCE is aimed to fulfill, and the type of markets that we'll be addressing with the project in Transinne?
Well, in the overall environment, we're seeing a couple of things happening. I mentioned it just a couple of seconds ago. The first is not only the number of attacks happening, but the sophistication of those attacks. They're evolving, and no longer are attacks being run by the same kind of profile of person. The motivation behind the attacks is changing also, and the impact of those attacks is becoming a lot more intense. A second driver we're seeing within the organization is organizations are becoming a lot more digital. Boards of directors are relying on digitalization to grow margins, to grow revenue, to increase productivity. And the more a company becomes connected, the more intense and the more opportunity there is for those cyber attacks to occur. The final trend that I'm seeing in the market is the lack of talent and resources. And this is a huge topic across industry, public and private. There are about 3.4 million open cybersecurity roles open today, and not enough people to fill them. So learning upskilling cybersecurity professionals is becoming a critical focal point for a lot of organizations.
Okay, thanks, Sandy, and a little bit more on that, Anna. So in terms of the drivers in the markets and as Sandy was saying there, things like upskilling and developing new talent, you know, how do you see ECCE playing a role in that?
Well, that's a key direction for us, because as I said before, yes, we work with the European values at the core and with the European initiatives, and even at the EU level, currently we have a statement that the upskilling is something that will get a lot of focus from that side. And for us, coming from the provider sector, we really feel the lack of workforce, and that's because we didn't put too much attention before, not us as RHEA, but in general the industry. And I believe that things should change now. I was saying, I believe at the end of last year when we had the previous RHEA Talk, that for us is very important to recruit not only from the high-tech industry, so not only engineering, but also connected sciences that are very important in the cybersecurity industry. Because yes, the engineers make the difference, but there are other aspects that contribute to addressing these sophisticated cyber attacks that Sandy was talking about earlier. So we have a very heavy focus, I would say, on skilling first of all and upskilling. Mm-hmm. And we already have several initiatives in this direction as we speak right now.
Fantastic. And Christine, so you mentioned about the sort of European context of this. And what do you feel the European key drivers, especially, let's say, from an institutional perspective, but also maybe from your role within the 6GIA, you know, how that forms the drivers that we're trying to address within the ECCE?
Yes, indeed, John, and I think it has been said by Sandy already, is that the digital transformation is one of the key drivers. We see it everywhere, right? The 5G, you were mentioning 5G, 6G is the next generation, but the 5G is being deployed today in not only in cities, but also in regions. And with 5G, you will also have multiplications of the Internet of Things objects being connected. We're talking about billions of them to be connected. So each time you have an interconnection in the network, wherever it is, and the data exchange, you run the risk of being attacked. You run the risk of being stolen by or as you know, spy also on the data that you exchange. And I can assure you this is something which is more and more present in Europe, and the European Commission and Union is very conscious of that. I also would like to quote as a second transformation, I would say, the need to protect our critical infrastructure. And we talk about space, which is for Europe an increasingly important infrastructure, critical infrastructure. If you look into what the European Commission has done in the last 20 years, acquiring Galileo satellites, EGNOS solutions, and Copernicus satellites, this is really assets who are at risk and could be at risk, and also delivering fundamental services not only to the governments but also to the citizens. The multiplications of applications are there, whether it's for agriculture, whether it's for you know, the autonomous cars, whatever we are thinking of. This is really something that has become extremely important. So definitely, you know, protections of our cybersecurity infrastructure is key. John,
thank you.
Go on.
Thank you.
I can go on.
You can continue for as long as you like. But just to sort of take that a little step further, you talk about critical infrastructures and specifically around space. I mean, Anna, so we talked about market drivers, but where do you think, who do you think the major beneficiaries of ECCE would be with respect, you know, with the areas that Christine was talking about there, the sort of critical infrastructures? Is it just space, or is it other areas as well?
As defined currently, yes, the space is part of this so-called critical infrastructure domain. So I believe that pretty much everyone being defined under the umbrella of critical infrastructure will benefit from this. And as I said at the beginning, for us, it's very important to create the connection between us as service providers, the rest of the industry, the European institutions, and the academia. I think each of us has a very important role. And again, we want to glue these players, because it's not possible to to create the value for the critical infrastructure sector that is in so much need of knowledge, workforce, long-term planning and long-term activities, if we don't connect the players that could provide all these things to the critical infrastructure sector. So that's where we see ourselves in the center, connecting all the dots.
Fantastic.
John, if I may react to what
Anna
said, well, is you know, it just reminds me of one example currently that I got from the Dutch maritime sector, the maritime, the Ministry of the Maritime government, you know, looking after Dutch maritime sector. They were quoting noting that with the NIS2 directive, which is coming, right, which is going to be applied, and this is also going to drive the market, by the way, John. Of course, space will be part of it, but there are so many other critical infrastructures like energy, like health, transport, and so on. So within this, the maritime sector is touched, and the lady mentioned that she will have to control one, you know, under NIS1 she had only one main infrastructure, which was the port of Rotterdam, sorry, the harbor of Rotterdam, to 500 new ones because of the extension of the directive to many more critical infrastructures. So if you look into this, back to what Anna Maria was saying, you know, we need skills and we need to really coordinate our actions together. This is really a must, because I don't see how the governments today, the member states or the EU today will be facing that alone. I think all forces, whether they are academia, as you mentioned, specific ISACs, or a specific private sector, if we can't combine our forces to come together, we will not achieve that. So we'll have really, we are at a turning point where we need to do that. And this center that we want to deploy is exactly about that. Is exactly about how can we create an ecosystem that will allow more companies, more academia, more actors to be active to react to those cyber attacks.
Thanks, Christine. I mean, that's an interesting point. I mean, I guess we've got quite a few different types of people on this call today. So from let's say academia or new graduates, perhaps looking for careers, to existing partners that we have within the space market and other markets, to potential customers of ECCE. So, so Sandy, let's say from the point of view of working with others in this ecosystem, how do you see that would work within ECCE in terms of the types of engagement that we would have?
Yeah, and when you think about who would be accessing the ECCE or who would be interested in taking part, it would really be anyone who sees a cybersecurity breach as a potential possibility, which would really be any industry, right?
Yes.
And the impact of that breach could be harm to the public health and safety of citizens within a specific country or region, and even impact to the economic outputs of that country or region as well. So the cyber attacks, again, are becoming quite intense and quite sophisticated in terms of what they're looking to achieve. So what we're looking to do with the ECCE, what people can expect from us, is really that focus on upskilling teams, whether that's upskilling technical teams on how to respond to and mitigate an attack. A lot of the times, cyber teams, the only time they have a chance to actually practice what they know is when an attack is actually happening. And we never see that in any other profession. Sports athletes get to practice all the time. Salespeople get to practice their pitches all the time, but cyber teams usually never get an opportunity to practice how to respond to an attack until an attack actually happens. So upskilling on attack playbooks is one of the offerings that we certainly can provide through the ECCE. General cybersecurity training as well is also something that we would be providing. Research and development opportunities on understanding future attack landscapes is also something that we could provide, and testing and certification opportunities for products and future technology. So this is all something that can be done through the ECCE for people who participate.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned sort of the more technical training. Will we be doing sort of raising awareness and things like that, maybe to non-technical personnel?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've got a question. Fantastic. So it's not just up to me anymore. So thank you very much. It's a question. Actually, it's directed at Anna Maria, and I'll read it out to you. If I can, many of the vulnerabilities in the space sector may come from the supply chain workflow of a space asset. That is, from planning to operations. It's very true. Thanks for this question. Really good.
Yeah.
What do you think about these types of vulnerabilities, and what do you think needs to be done so the stakeholders can have a better understanding and transparency during this process, especially if we consider that commercial LEO satellites are being built using off-the-shelf components? Really good question. Thanks for that. So I'll start with Anna, see if you can come back with a response to that.
Well, I think that these are multiple questions embedded into one. So it's for me personally, it goes very much into the supply chain. For some other security professionals, probably it would go in a different direction. But for me, the first thing that came to my mind was, of course, the supply chain and the extension that this critical infrastructure players actually got with the new redefined umbrella, I would say. And it's not only the space that will suffer from the supply chain care, or more care, I would say. It's all the players in the critical infrastructure. And what we plan to do in the ECCE is to address the whole value chain. So when we talk to a client or when we build a project, we involve all the stakeholders in order to be able to anticipate as much as we can. Again, there is no 100% security for no domain yet. So to anticipate the potential issues that could arise from I wouldn't say from a vulnerability perspective, because vulnerabilities can appear constantly. But our strength and our focus basically will be on anticipation. And coming back to the supply chain, I think that's very important also for the whole chain when it comes to the space or to any other critical sector. Again, probably the space has more traction now also because prior to these years, it didn't get so much focus from a cyber perspective, right? But as Christine was saying earlier, space is not only about satellite communication in a very basic way, I would say. It can affect businesses at the end of the day, because transportation business, aviation business, they calculate their routes based on information that they get from the space component, let's say from satellites. So imagine that if we have a key component compromised in this chain, a business is suffering, people at the end are suffering, because, well, in aviation, if we think we have a lot of lives at stake. So that's why I said at the beginning, it's more than one question. There are a few questions into this. And of course, to answer very straightforward, our focus would be to anticipate as much as we can in the ECCE and also in the R&D projects that we develop, the potential negative effects or negative consequences of vulnerabilities that will keep appearing. They will not stop.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So Sandy, Christine, anything to add to that in terms of understanding
Yeah.
Understanding the supply chain, for example.
Yeah, maybe I can, just bring an addition, I mean, to what Anna Maria answered this perfectly well. The supply chain is extremely important. If we look into the satellite telecommunication sector, if we, I was looking into this when Viasat satellite, was delivering services on, was attacked, supposedly by the Russians, we don't know, but supposedly, to and render all the communications of this satellite, not only over Ukraine, but over all the neighboring countries, completely inefficient. So I know that, for example, you had windmills in Germany that were completely stopped, which is indeed a very difficult points, during because we need this energy, and particularly Germany is depending very much on the windmills for that. But what I wanted to say, the point I wanted to give to you is that the weak point of this satellite chain was indeed the ground segments, and the ground segment and the end user terminals have not been considered so far. I think it started to change. And RHEA is working on research and development project on this, but the ground segment should be indeed ruggedized, if I can put it like this, against cyber attacks, because the old satellite was neutralized through the weak part of the ground segment. So indeed, when we are setting up a LEO constellations, we have to look into the whole chain and reinforce the whole chain, including the places where you put the computers, the cloud places. All of this have to be reinforced against cyber attack. It's a lot of work. It's not going to be easy to do, but that's where our center could help, getting the people together, reflecting about that, and trying to get zero risk if possible. There is never zero risk, but tend to that.
Okay, thanks, Christine. And Sandy, if you're looking at the supply chain, you're looking at different providers at each level delivering into, let's say, a superior provider or the prime, or however you term it. Has training and awareness and certification playing a role here as well?
Absolutely. Understanding so now weaknesses are not only within your immediate infrastructure, but also within your supply chain infrastructure as well. So being able to understand those weaknesses, identify them, and understand what to do with them when and if something were to happen is a critical part of any organization's ability to operate in a digital world. And within that organization, also understanding where your own weaknesses could be, where potential breaches can take place. You can't shut down every single weakness, right? Because organizations still do need to operate, but understanding where those weaknesses are and how do you handle potential attacks or breaches is going to be paramount.
Excellent, thank you. So we have another question. Oh, sorry, we have a poll come up. So I'll ask the poll first. So if you could respond to this. So is the ECCE of interest to your organization? And just press yes or no. And it says host and panelists cannot vote. Okay, so I'd have voted yes. But anyway, if you could respond to that poll, that would be great. In the meantime, I have another question. Interestingly, so at this ECCE, will research and development or testing be performed in the field of Galileo signals? For example, the testing of protection mechanisms against jamming or spoofing. So I think it's an interesting question, because from a space perspective, obviously you have additional vulnerabilities that come into play as well. So I don't know, who wants to give me a go on this one? Who's putting their hand up first? Christine.
Because of Galileo. I assume yes, of course, yes. I mean, there is no reason why we should say no. And when we talk about critical infrastructures and space, of course, navigation, Galileo is in there, and we know that the spoofing of the navigation signal is could be damageable. It's happening in the maritime sector. I mean, I was mentioning this, so you could indeed the data could be replaced with incorrect data. there is a lot of research being carried, the European Space Agency, among others, but also the EU, on how to support or react against, the spoofing, or actually have anti-spoofing systems. So we're working on that, and of course, research around that is necessary, is essential. But I know it's happening already, and we already have systems that could do that. But definitely, we would work, of course, on that critical infrastructure as well, if there is an interest, and if, of course, actors are coming to us to work with us on that.
Sure, and Anna, this also relates to more to the sort of, let's say, the non-connected, physically connected devices, so RF and managing drones and things like that. And I think we already have a project looking at this type of thing.
Absolutely. So we do as we speak have projects in the area that you were mentioning. What I think that ECCE will do is to bring all this knowledge and capabilities into a single place. And as Christine was saying, for us, it's also very important, the cooperation. So as I said before, with academia, because these are very, very sensitive things that where you can't be a single player. Absolutely not. So that's where we see the cooperation and partnership with other actors from the industry very important. So the academia, because the specific of the question was making me think about them more about the universities and the value that they would bring into this. Of course, we plan on building some interesting research labs within the ECCE. So I think that that's a question where we could answer yes, but there's a but afterwards. How we will do it, it's still something that we will probably uncover throughout the next year.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Oh, another poll before I go for so please, if you could respond to this. So it's just to give us an understanding of the sector that you're from. So which sector do you work in? Please select one of those options. If it's not in that option, just send me a message in the chat and I'll add it. Okay, so if you could respond to that, that'd be great. Thank you very much. And Sandy, you know, from your let's say focus, if you like, on the cyber range and the tools that we're using in there, do you think cyber ranges have a role to play in sort of integrating? Can they integrate sort of non software oriented systems, kind of like hardware and things in the loop?
We do, yeah, we can absolutely. And I think that's what, you know, sets us apart a little bit, is we're really able to emulate actual environments that organizations are operating within. So hybrid environments, including IT and OT assets, those are all able to be integrated into the cyber range, so you can get an understanding of what is actually taking place. Fantastic,
thank you very much. All right, let me think of another question that I could pose to you then. Actually, one thing that we have talked quite a lot about is the space sector, and I think RHEA is very well known for operating in the space sector. So we've talked about critical infrastructures, but well, one question is, do you see the ECCE being focused mainly on space, or will it be focused on different markets? And the second part of that is, from our experience in space, let's say from a RHEA experience in space, not just our experience, but potentially the experience of our partners, how do you see that being translated into the ECCE? Can I ask Christine first?
I don't know why I knew you would ask.
I just like picking on the person just below me.
Okay, so at least John, I don't, because I would like my colleagues also to answer. Quote another one, which is I think very important, is the defense sector, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's particularly of attention because of the geopolitical situations we are living all with the Ukrainian conflict. Is becoming absolutely essential, I would say, and more than this. Before this conflict, the Commission had already, and the member state had already agreed on the strategic compass, which is due to develop strengthening, I would say, EU defense and security in Europe for the next 5-10 years. And within this, there is this element of EU cyber defense. So that's really a policy which is meant to develop the solutions to respond to cyber attacks within defense. So considering cyber as one of the topic of the actions that defense will work on, you know, next to air, next to space, next to maritime sector, there will be the cyber sector, and this is becoming something, you know, also, I wouldn't say new, because this is existing, you know, the defense sector in many of the member states in Europe and outside of Europe, but this is new as far as a collective will to do something collectively in Europe. This is absolutely new. So defense is definitely another one where we can also support and have the development of solutions there.
Thank you, Christine. And Anna, same question to you, really. You know, looking at our experience in space, you know, which sectors do you feel the ECCE would benefit engagement, well, or customers from engaging with ECCE? Where do you think the benefit would be? Which sort of sectors?
Definitely, when I said at the beginning that we want to keep space at the core, it's because the experience that we gained there, I think that it must be replicated somewhere else. And I can tell you, knowing the projects that we ran, that it's an unbeatable experience. And a sector, there's no specific sector right now that comes to my mind, because from space, I mean, pretty much every sector relies on space today, as I said before. Yeah. So if I think also at the public sector, and what Christine and Sandy were mentioning before, digitalization, that it's now it's a very hot topic, especially in the public sectors, in the EU member states. That's a place where we see definitely as part of our activities within ECCE. Again, we have constant projects around different aspects of digitalization, because I don't believe that there is one single expert for all the aspects of any kind of industry. And this digitalization in the public sector will actually have effects into other sectors as well. And cyber will, like it or not, become a central component of every single activity that comes out from digitalization.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And Sandy, anything to add, sort of, in terms of the sectors and obviously, I think you, coming from a non-space background, could help that as well, in terms of applying what we've got into those non-space environments.
I agree with what Anna had said, right? RHEA's background is very strong in space and critical infrastructure overall. But what we're seeing is from a private sector or commercial background, even, everyone's digitalizing, everyone is going to be experiencing cyber attacks. And what we're seeing as a trend are organizations are coming together, both public and private, to have these conversations, understand how to mitigate these attacks, how do we prepare for them. So is there any one industry that would benefit from the ECCE? I would say no. I think all industries could benefit, as long as there is an alignment around what people want to get out of it, right? Which is that best practice sharing, that expertise building, upskilling, learning. That's really what the goal of the ECCE is about.
Thank you.
One thing I want to add, because you were talking about organizations. I mean, the banking sector, of course, is another area where we are delivering services, and we hope to deliver more services in the future. And one thing that it brings to me also the concept of sharing information that you mentioned, Sandy. Sharing information is going to be more and more difficult, or actually subject to attack. So we need to find ways of sharing information on those cyber attacks. Sometimes it's very touchy for the organizations when they are under attacks, right? So we need to find a way, and maybe this center could also help to do that. How can we share anonymously information which will map the cyber attacks for different sectors, the banking sector, the energy sector, the water, drinking water sector, the digital transformation sector, etc., the space, the defense, you name it, and find a way to collectively fight that, right, in a sector. Say, I'm not alone. I mean, in Luxembourg, for example, the banking sector started to do that, and they started to exchange information on where the cyber attacks were coming, what type of ransomware they were you know, under pressure, etc. They started to react more efficiently. And suddenly there was not only one bank that could react, but all the banking sector was reacting together. And I think that's what we should do in all the different sectors. And it's a big challenge, John. It's a big challenge.
Okay, thank you.
If I may add to what Christine was saying, information sharing, yes, sits at the core of the future in the domain of cyber. To make things go better for us, the good ones. But there is one thing that we are inheriting from the past, and we have to change it for the future, the matter of trust. So there's, as you know, cyber is associated with the lack of trust. And therefore, to get to the point where we do share information and we're not afraid that we will have consequences in business, in our public image as an institution, and so on and so forth. We will, once we go over this border, I think that things will get way better. And I know also that at the EU level, there are initiatives in this direction, because it's been involved also in projects that refer to information sharing between member states. And it's a major concern for the European Commission on how to create this trust relationship between everyone, and transparency. And that's something that we also want to help with in the ECCE.
But it's good you raised that, Anna, because we've just had a question in from Delia. I won't read your full name, but I wanted to ask you, so there's a question from Delia. I wanted to ask you a question as it concerns information sharing between European Union member states. As we know, it is a must for member states to share information about the cyber attacks and which states are victims. However, states sometimes prefer not to share the information. How could we overcome this problem? So we've explained there is a problem there, and we've talked about that it's recognized. Is there ways that we could help that with the ECCE? Should I start with you, Anna, because you were talking about that?
I'm fine to start with. Like I said, what we want to do with ECCE, one of the things is to be a relay also of trust between different actors, right? And if these actors are called the member states, yes, we want to take this very difficult mission, I would say, to contribute to ease up this information sharing. Because at the end of the day, it's something that the effects of not sharing the information about cyber attacks between member states, it's something that we feel also as people, right? So as citizens of EU. So I believe it's an easier case to explain and also to socialize around, as to other cases when people say, okay, it will not happen to me. When something happens in a member state, it can have effects in other member states, and ultimately impacting in different ways the citizens' lives and daily activities.
Christine, Sandy, anything to add there from information sharing and how, you know, some people want to keep that information fairly confidential, but obviously information shared is also a big benefit.
Yeah, it's a big issue, because if you have classified informations, which usually you have, right? Particularly if we talk about public entities and member states, cybersecurity centers, for example, national cybersecurity centers, it's not easy to share, right? There are elements in Europe existing. You have the ENISA agency, which is supposed, right, to look into that and respond to the demand of member states to work on specific topics. They have ad hoc groups working on 5G. There will be one in the future on the Internet of Things. They had it on maritime sector, just to understand how to improve this exchange of information, at which level it should happen. The second avenue that we have to think about is that anonymous based, right? How can you do it anonymously and yet, get the right information? I mean, a valid information, a reliable information. Mm-hmm. And that's all paths that indeed are being looked at the moment at the EU. So there are many different actions and reflections today about that. And I don't think we have the perfect answer, mm-hmm. But we can work on that again together. And this is the idea with the different actors to think about that, right? What works, what doesn't work, how can we improve that? And how can we help also for this exchange of information?
Thank you, Christine. Sandy, anything to add to that? Okay, thank you.
Nothing to add to that.
Thanks. We have another question. So this is there any prioritization in place regarding the criticality of the core functions in the cyber domain and the related cyber skills to support these actions in the context of the EU strategic compass? So I'm going to put that back to Christine because it's related to EU, but I'm guessing trying to interpret that question a little bit more. You're comfortable with that question, Christine?
Not really, to be honest. Because
let me see the criticality of the core functions in the cyber domain and the related cyber skills to support these actions. So I think what the questioner is asking is, are we prioritizing any particular thing, any particular function within the ECCE, and any particular skills that are related to that function, threat intelligence, forensics, anything like that? That's the way I interpret it. Maybe, Marius, if you could clarify if I've got it right there, that would be useful.
I could really make a try on this one, John. I think that particularly related to the strategic compass is a difficult one, isn't it? Because we are, the only thing that comes to my mind is that we are working in European Defence Fund projects that we have just won between brackets with our different partners. We will work on those topics, right? We will work on those cybersecurity elements. I'm thinking about cyber range that Sandy was mentioning. So digital twins is something that could be a core function. I mean, how can we duplicate different IT infrastructures, the exchange of data, information infrastructure, the OT, IT, as Sandy mentioned, to help identify where the cyber attacks could come, where the weaknesses are in the network. The second is a threat intelligence one, and so anticipating the threat in all the different sectors, whether it's in aviation, whether it's terrorist attacks, or whatever other more important attacks that we could have. And that is something that we need to, we have some instruments within RHEA to do that, but I assume that there again, we need to work on different topics and different sectors. We need to have experts in those sectors to really make it work intelligently.
Okay, thanks, Christine. And sort of moving on from that then, Sandy, so from what Christine was saying there, we're going to deal with all sorts of various different technologies and themes within the cyber world, but cyber range is going to be one of the key core components of ECCE?
It will be, yes. It's identified as one of the foundational technologies as a part of the ECCE, so part of the value that we want to bring back to the people who are accessing it.
And are there specific skills that will be appropriate in supporting that technologies?
Can you rephrase that? Are
there specific, well, the question is related to the cyber skills to support the specific actions? So are there specific skills that we will be training in, or specific skills that we will need to support those activities?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we do have a number of attack scenarios already created where organizations can come in and train against those attack scenarios. If by any chance that an organization would want to customize a specific attack scenario or an environment, including tools and applications that are within that organization, we can certainly do that as well. So it would become more of a consultative dialogue approach with the users to understand what would drive the most value for them.
Thanks, Sandy. And maybe expanding this a little bit for yourself, Anna. You know, so we've got that the NIST diagram of the various stages of the cyber attack. So from identification to response to operations, etc. So are there any specific areas of that we're going to focus on with ECCE, or are we aiming to cover the whole of that life cycle?
Well, in practice, we cover pretty much everything in that picture, because if we speak about the whole value chain, we can say that we address only a specific piece of that, right? So when we talk about the value chain, and especially in this earlier question around the supply chain, there is absolutely no possibility to speak about only one area if we refer to NIST right now. Mm-hmm. Of course, there is always an answer that returns back to partnership that is very important for us. It's a very important direction that we want to take. So if you look at the NIST, because you brought it in discussion, our aim is, yes, to cover NIST as we all know it today, but maybe not alone. That's not the point of ECCE, because we talk so much about sharing, about creating trust. That's something that definitely we can't do alone. So that's only possible through creating new partnerships.
Okay, well, that's a good answer, because Marios has just come back and said we have interpreted that question correctly, and it's because they're looking at future potential collaborations. So hopefully, Marios, you'll be in touch and we can talk about those collaborations. Next question.
Just to add on that comment, yeah, probably for those that participate into this RHEA Talk and are further interested, we can always explain, especially from an R&D side, what we plan to do and how we see these things under the partnership umbrella. It's something that we also do today, right? So it's nothing new. Yeah,
exactly. Thanks, Anna. So next question, how will ECCE work with companies in practice? If a company wants cyber advice, do they just call, or does there need to be some kind of contract or agreement in place? I'm going to send this one to Sandy to respond to first.
That's a good question. I mean, I think at any point, because of what we're trying to do, there's going to be some sort of agreement in place, right? From an NDA perspective, information sharing perspective, I think that there's always going to have to be something on paper.
Yeah. Anna, anything to add to that one?
Absolutely. The legal side matters a lot, especially in cyber, due to liabilities and responsibilities, I like to say. But something that we want to do, and I've seen it working in the past in my previous positions, was that if we have a situation related to cyber where different stakeholders are involved, we would probably not run first to the legal department to sort out the paperwork, because as a cyber attack is ongoing, we don't have the luxury to put on hold the part that is in need to wait for the legal side. So it's, of course, again, papers matters, but at the end of the day, safety, cyber safety probably matters much more.
Thanks, Anna. Christine, anything to add to that one?
Maybe I wanted to refer to the building that we are, you know, that is in construction today, and the building will be ended mid of 2023. So there will be spaces, physical spaces, very secured one, and we can indeed have her host the industry there as well, because the interest is to create this ecosystem between the different industry partners as well. So yes, there will be some cost. If you come, to the building, there will be some cost, of course, but there should be a win-win. There should be a clearly interest for this company to participate because of the ecosystem we expect to create there, and we will create there. That's also more concrete what I'm saying, right? We have a 1,600 square meter building which will be fully secured. So the environment will be specifically protected, I would say, against cyber attacks.
Okay, thanks, Christine. So we've got 2 more questions to get through in the last 5 minutes. The first one I think is fairly straightforward. So, is the ECCE or part of it about threat intelligence? Any plans to collaborate with other threat intelligence sources, MITRE, and so on? So I'll ask Anna this one. I think this is more in your field, Anna.
This question is from someone that is spying on what we do. So the answer is yes. That's why I said that it's from someone that studied a little bit what we do and our plans. Definitely, threat intel is a core part of the cyber activities that we do, at least in the services area. And cooperation with other actors, MISP, is coming to my mind, because we have definitely the intention to go that way. Again, I'm getting back to cooperation. So we don't do things alone like we never did before. So we want to continue our tradition to work with partners that are interested to bring the value in the critical infrastructure sector's protection. And from this statement, all our actions are moving forward.
Thank you, Anna. Just a last poll, I think, as we're running out of time. So would you like further information about ECCE? So if you'd like to respond to that, I obviously would, but I'm not allowed to again. So let's move to the last question, and it's a really good one, actually. So I'll read it out. There already exists a lot of companies in Europe providing cybersecurity protection for private and public companies. What's the added value of choosing RHEA rather than another company? And the second question, what do you think of the dependency to the US security solution for the European companies? A bit of a loaded question here. All security vendors like Microsoft, Palo Alto, Splunk are US vendors. The European company and probably RHEA who are building all their cybersecurity defenses based on US products. So 2 questions there. The first one I'll put to you, Sandy. So what is the added value of choosing RHEA? And second part of that question, are we reliant on security solutions from outside of Europe?
So the first question for me, I mean, we have such a rich history in working with our foundational clients, ESA being one of them, but we really do have a true understanding of what's needed from a cybersecurity perspective. Our products and our services have really stemmed from and evolved from our work with our clients from years ago. So we've developed the services, we've developed the products and tools that we have access to now based on the market feedback that we're hearing.
Thank you, Sandy. And Anna, just if I change the question slightly, so what's the added value of choosing RHEA within the ECCE and the ECCE rather than the company? So what does the ECCE bring to RHEA as an added value to others?
I'm not sure I follow your question. What is it?
So the question is, what's the added value of choosing RHEA rather than another company? Okay, but my added piece of that question is,
I got it now.
ECCE as part of that solution, as this discussion is about the ECCE.
Okay, so there are a few answers to this question, right? First of all, the cyber industry is in a lot of pain in regards to the players that want to contribute to improve the cyber posture overall of any kind of player in the industry, right? So I don't believe that today we are living, and our clients definitely are not living with the choice of having a few companies and not deciding with whom they would like to work. They would like to work with anyone that can help them to support their own business. So that's the first answer. The second answer, I think the description of the ECCE itself probably answers to the value that we provide. Not only the space expertise that we have and that we can bring to the earth, I like to say, but also the initiatives that we place. So all these cooperation things that I was talking about earlier, I think it's very important. That's a major value. I worked personally for a lot of companies, but there was never a bigger need for cooperation between different players within the cyber domain as it is now. So staying as an isolated island definitely doesn't help anyone. And the fact that we started the ECCE from the beginning with the target in mind of creating partnerships and a cooperation, I think it will bring in the future a lot of value for the clients that we work with and for our business partners.
Thank you.
I would add one word, John.
Very quickly, Christine.
We are a trusted independent actor. That's very important. You can find cybersecurity in various big companies, but it's not their top job, right? Whereas we can deliver services to any type of companies in a really independent manner.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, panel. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our session, so many thanks to you all for joining in, and many thanks to my panel. If you're interested in viewing a recording of this or any previous webinars, please visit the media section of our website at www.rheagroup.com. We hope you enjoyed today's session and hope to see you on future RHEA Talks. So it's goodbye from myself and goodbye from the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.